You know the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. In this episode, I'm going to tell you what that means for ERP implementations and how do you go about identifying business processes that are broken that may need to be changed as you take on a new system. Business process analysis and redesign is a critical element of any ERP modernization effort that cannot be ignored. You have to do it. If you don't do it at the beginning of the project, you'll have to do it at the end of the project or during, and that's going to make life even more painful for the ERP implementation team. So let's go ahead and dig into what business process analysis means and how important it is for an ERP implementation or modernization effort. So what is business process analysis? What is business process mapping? Business process redesign? The first thing you do though is analyze your business processes. Business process analysis is a critical element of ERP implementations, change management, organizational redesign, but specifically today we'll talk about how it impacts your ERP modernization, ERP implementations, and generally how it impacts your overall business practices as you take on a new solution. The purpose of ERP-focused business process analysis is to make sure that you're using your existing resources in the most efficient way. When you buy a new ERP system, a payroll system, a human resource management system, you can't keep doing business like you did business 20 years ago. The most important part of buying a new system or implementing a new ERP system is how are you going to use it? How do practices you had in place for 20 years, 30 years impact your new operations today? So let's take a deeper look into how that functions, how to go about it, and how to do a business process analysis that matters to your ERP implementation. Now, there's a lot of different ways of doing BPRs, business process redesign. You could go as deep as you want. You could really dig deep and go after finding minute inefficiencies and tuning them. And from that perspective, it's a never-ending project. Business process analysis should be an ongoing thing. But you have a project to bring in, you have an ERP system to take live. So how do you fit business process analysis into an ERP implementation? It's at the very beginning. Start doing business process analysis when you start thinking about modernizing or upgrading your ERP system. This takes on a more formal role when you bring in consultants like us or when you really start digging into going to find a new ERP system for your organization. Government agencies especially are notorious for running old practices, not just old systems. So if you're running a legacy system, the problems are enhanced when you bring in a new system if you're still running your old processes. So the first thing to do is really dig deeper into what you're doing today and how it's going to impact your new ERP system. Our recommendation is that don't go and buy a system before you've done business process analysis, redesign, mapping, this whole exercise. So what are the benefits of business process redesign and analysis? As it pertains to an ERP system or an implementation, it can help you reduce costs, it can help you reduce inefficiencies, it can help you remove duplications and roadblocks in a certain process. When you look at business processes at a minute level, things that have been going on for the last 30, 40 years, you have a sense of stepping back and looking at the whole picture all at once. What that gives you is perspective to make decisions as a business leader, as a CFO, as the HR director, as the IT director, to really dig deeper into your existing processes and see how you want to improve them. So where do you start with a business process redesign? Is it just flowcharts? Can you use PowerPoint? Can you do it on a chalkboard or a whiteboard? The answer to all of those is yes. You don't have to be fancy. But at Avero, we use a tool called IBM's BlueWorks Live that really automates and speeds up the process of business process redesign. So the first thing we would do is have a discovery session where we bring in, let's say, just the finance team or the accounting team, and we focus on one particular subject. Let's assume it's budgeting. So we'll bring in into a conference room or a classroom people that are responsible in your organization for the budgeting process. And typically this is a senior accountant, even the CFO. And we go through the process of at the beginning of the budget year, how do you get requests for budget improvements or enhancements or increases? In many cases that we've done ERP modernizations for, this is typically done on an Excel spreadsheet that is passed back and forth between departments, between different layers of the organization, to the point where it comes to the CFO's desk, and then the process of approving or denying budget requests starts. Can this be automated? Modern ERP systems allow you to have this process in a more automated manner where my budget analyst or my public works director can put it into a system. It gets routed to the budget manager, to the CFO, to the finance director automatically, and they have the power to approve or deny this budget request in an automated manner. The second thing to do is, when we gather all these people in this room, is to just talk about how this process flows today. And at times we may not want to spend too much time on this process, because if everything is done on Excel and on paper, what's the point of mapping that out? Because when you're buying a new system, you assume that all of that's going to be automated and moved to a system. So this discovery session takes place maybe 1 or 2 hours at a time for a specific functional area, and we extract from that your existing business processes. And they may be mapped in the BPMN 2.0 format or not, but the key element of this is good, bad, or ugly. Tell us how you're doing business today, and we'll take it from there. So once you have business processes for today that have been going on for the last several years documented, you take those as-is processes and you analyze them to fit them with best practices, your vision, how do you want these processes to flow in the future, and what comes out is a to-be process map, or the future state, where you're looking at this from an idealistic perspective. System issues, legacy system issues, modern system issues set aside, how do you want this process to flow? Who does what? Where are the key handoffs? Where are the redundancies that need to be removed? How does this process become streamlined? In my household, a week before Christmas, we'll start looking for the Christmas lights. And when you find them, it's a ball, right? Where do you begin to untangle the Christmas lights? How do you start to make sure that all the bulbs are still working? That's exactly the process you're going through with a business process redesign. Untangling the Christmas lights, seeing where you are. Is this string of Christmas lights even salvageable? And if it's not, then we have to do something to modify, redo, modify the processes so they're all aligned, that they're all working in unison, and that it's giving you the outcomes that you're looking for. So how do you actually do this, right? It all sounds very academic, and it sounds very much like a lot of work. It is, but if you have experts like us helping you, it's a breeze. But if not, here's how you do this. You may have something like PowerPoint in your organization. Just map it out. You may not have the skill sets that a full-time consultant does, but at least you can have the high-level processes mapped out. You can do it in a flowchart format. You can do it in narrative format. You can have bullet points. Whatever you do, map down your processes, note them down. The best thing to do, obviously, and we recommend doing it in the BPMN 2.0 format. This is an industry standard and easily read and understood by software vendors and consultants alike, so that there won't be any ambiguity in how your processes are functioning today or how they should be doing in the future. The last thing and the most important thing to understand is, before you embark on the business process redesign, make sure you understand why you're doing this. You can get lost in the details. You can get lost in the policy details. You can get lost in HR regulations. You can get lost in just trying to find every piece of efficiency there is in this process. But the key thing to determine what level of detail to go into is to understand what's important to the software vendors and the consultants who will help you through the ERP process. What's the level of detail that's most efficient to help you find those requirements that will help you then find the right vendor. If you don't know where to start with the business process redesign project, please get in touch with us. Thank you.